Hey there folks, this is Josh, Stoney Ridge Farmer. Welcome back to the farm. Today's gonna be a fun time here on the farm. We've got a lot of work to get done. So that's a post driver, and we got all our stakes and measuring devices in the back of the Kubota here. And we're getting ready to start pounding posts. So today is the day. This is probably gonna be a 3 or 4 part series on building a Kentucky 4-board fence. We've got our posts all laid out. I've been out here working probably, I'm gonna say 3 or 4 hours already, laying out all these posts. That was a chore for sure. You can see we've got a string out right here. We're gonna show you exactly how we get started from start to finish on this fence. Today is the start, and later on, subscribe to the channel and you'll get to see the rest of it. So come along today as we get started on our Kentucky 4-board fence out here on the farm. All right? Let me pre-apologize, I've got the camera out, so that means that the wind has to blow 8,000 miles per hour. It's that time of year where the wind is just whipping here in North Carolina. First, let me talk to you about what we're using, okay? So all the fencing materials you see here are from American Timber and Steel. We work with Farm Fence Solutions. They're on the back of the hat somewhere. Where are you at? Right there. We'll post a link down to their website. We'll also post a link to American Timber and Steel's website. These are just the best posts. If you didn't catch the video where we toured the fence post factory, I'll post that in the end credits of this video so you can check it out and see how these posts are made. This is true 1x6 treated southern yellow pine, and the posts are treated southern yellow pine also. They are, I believe, 8 feet tall. We'll get into more detail about all the materials. We won't be hanging fence boards yet today, but we are building a 4-board, a Kentucky 4-board fence out here in front of our farm. And our house is way up there. We're down here on the road, and we just want a beautiful entrance to our house, but we want it to be functional also. So we'll put an electric line on the very top of this, and we'll also put an electric line probably about 24 inches up to keep the cows and whatever livestock we have off of the fence. All right, let's talk about the tools. So this is a ProTech P200S. They make several different post drivers for pretty much any size tractor, whether you've got a compact tractor, subcompact tractor, a great big old tractor, or a utility tractor like this 5065. Also in the back here, we've got a few tools of the trade we're going to be using. All the fence posts came with dunnage in between, and we can use this dunnage to stake out our straight line. You're going to get a little bit of footage of that. I just kind of want to tell you what you're going to expect in this video. So you can probably see I've got an orange line. You can see it barely right there, and it's running out to our gate, our home gate, our farm gate. That's the entrance to our driveway. Now we've already ran all the string here, and what we have to think about is how far off of the highway or state maintained road we need to build. So we're 25 feet off the center line of this road. That's why this big space. It seems like a huge waste. I'm gonna have to mow it, but I can't build anything right here because it's a state right away. So let's get busy. We'll start working here, and I'll explain things as I go. The post driver is super duper cool. So about halfway through the video, when we start driving post, I'll show you, I'll give you a little demo on that thing. All right guys, there's a reason why I got started without you. I got started without you here because there's a lot of tedious work and a lot of head scratching that has to go on here, especially since this is the first 4-board fence I've ever built. So again, I'm relying on the guys at Farm Fence Solutions to give me a little bit of a helping hand, a little bit of a guiding hand. So what we're doing here, we've driven stakes all the way out through here, probably anywhere from 50 feet apart, depending on the curvature of the land and the curvature of the road, to almost 200 feet apart. And what we're doing is taking a mason string, just like this, and you can pull it tight. It'll stretch tight. We'll pull it as tight as we possibly can without pulling the stake out of the ground, and we'll go all the way down here to our farm gate. We can hardly see our farm gate, but it's right up there. That's the gate, the main gate to our house. The goal with this fence is to contain livestock, but also for aesthetics. So you'll see at the end of this fence build how beautiful this is. We'll probably get a little bit of drone footage in the intros and the outros of the progress as it goes along. So first thing we have to do is mark out our fence line. We need to look back down that fence line. We need to make sure what we have is straight. That's not straight, that's just posts laid out, and that's what I did. I came out here and laid these posts out on a nasty cool day. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take our mason string and we're gonna continue to stretch, and I'll show you how we wrap it around our stakes. It's important. All this stuff is very, very important if you want a beautiful straight fence. Okay, here's our mason string. And there is a stake right down here. I'm gonna show you how we wrap it around the stake. And I can pull this really, really tight, almost like a banjo string. You can almost hear it like dong, dong, dong. It's gonna be really, really tight. Let me show you how we wrap it around a stake. And you need to do this every time the same way on every stake so that your fence is straight. If you wrap it on the back side of the stake, I'll show you. This might be my first Kentucky 4-bore, but I built many a fence. So we'll stretch out our string as tight as we can get it, and we'll go about 2 inches from the top of our stake, and we're gonna wrap it around, okay? Just like so. I'm gonna wrap it around 3 times so it holds nice and tight, and I'll overlap the string on top of itself. Now our string is running on this side of the stake, on all the stakes, all the way throughout. So in other words, we wanna be on the same side of the stake all the way throughout. And when we get done with this, we're gonna look back on it and make sure it looks straight. If it doesn't look straight, we'll correct it, because whether it's straight as an arrow or not, it's all up to the eyeballs. So when I pull down my road here, I wanna be proud of my fence, that's for sure. So we're gonna go ahead and run this on to the next stake. Keep this string tight as you unroll your other string. The major goal here is to make the fence flow. In other words, it doesn't really matter how far off, as long as we're 25 feet off the center line here, but the fence needs to flow. There can't be any abrupt changes in this fence. If there are, they'll stand out like a sore thumb and it'll look kind of silly. So I'm walking the line here, and I've walked this line, and I've walked that line all the way to the gate right there, and everything looks super duper straight, super duper awesome. It looks like we're gonna have good flow. And what we've got to do is back in and drive our first post, then we'll turn the tractor around and basically back our way down this fence line, and we'll start driving post. I'm gonna drive a couple posts. Once we get out here in a good flat spot, I'm gonna give you a quick demo of the post driver. That thing is super duper awesome. All right, folks, if it ain't tight, it ain't right. Stoney Ridge Farm fence shirt, guys. If you want to pick yourself one up, there's a link down in the video description. So here's what we've got going on. This is the post driver. I'm going to walk you through every bit of that here in just a second. We're going to talk about the posts, we're going to talk about post spacing, and we're going to talk about the length of our boards. So I'm trying to really find my rhythm right now. And you'll see I've driven, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 or 7 posts out through here. Each post is basically on that, it's not a chalk line, it's a mason string, and the mason string is down low here on the post. You can see it. Now, what I've learned is it's tough to level a post, and I've learned this from years of experience. It's tough to level a post up next to that string. You gotta get it straight, you gotta get it level, and you've gotta get it just barely touching that string. I'll show you on a post up here. Once that post is barely touching that string, that's when you're in business, and that's when you can start driving. Now the driver basically has several different motions, and we'll go through all the motions of the driver. We're going about 7 foot 11 inches between posts, except for the one on the end, and I did a straight up 7 foot. Now we got to think about this a little bit. Let me set my measuring tape down. So all these posts are evenly spaced. We have 16-foot boards, but we don't want a 16-foot board, a 16-foot board, a 16-foot board. So we're gonna start with a 16, an 8, and a 16, and we're gonna kind of stagger them. So we'll cut our boards in half and stagger them as we go down through the fence line right here. And that way, they're all not warped the same. This is wood. Wood is gonna move. It's gonna move with heat. It's gonna move with moisture. So we've really gotta think about that too. We'll get into, in the next video, the type of nails that we're using, the nail gun that we're using, all the tools, and I'll kind of give you a little tools of the trade talk here. So Here is a post that went in totally perfect. I told you I'd show you real quick. So this post went in totally perfect, and that string is just barely touching that post once it's level. Now we've come off the string just a little bit down here, and I'm talking about this much. Will it matter in the grand scheme of things? Probably not, probably not. So we're gonna fire up the tractor after I go through the different parts of this machine with you so that you know what they are. From a distance, this is your rock spike, okay? So what this does is it'll lift up and it'll rotate around underneath your driver. And your driver, I'm not sure how many pounds or kilograms that driver is, but it's got to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, 400 to 600 pounds, something like that. Don't quote me. I'll post a comment down there telling you exactly what it weighs. And again, this is the ProTech P200S, and it's from Farm Fence Solutions. So if you get into a cluster of rocks and stones, like river rocks or rocks about this big, this rock spike will drive it through. So it'll pre-drill your hole, and then you can extract the rock spike and have your hole pre-drilled. We've hit a couple rocks, and typically the rocks here on our farm are like this big. That's not what this is made for. It's not made to pound through a gigantic rock. When you hit that gigantic rock, as long as your post is in the ground, I don't know, 1.5 feet or so, you should be totally good, especially if it's a line post. Now, if it's a post that you're going to be pulling from, in other words, if we're running wire on this, high tensile wire, you don't want to use that post. You're going to have to relocate and figure out a better place, because if you got to have a post set in the ground in a good brace. So what happens is this raises up in the air. There are 3 spikes on the bottom of this. I'm going to get you a little close up too as we go through this. There's a control station, like a control panel right here with different levers. We'll get you a close up of that. I'm going to show you everything about this, how it works. The way I've been doing this, and it's just a one-man show with me right here, so it's taken some time and it's taken some work. I'm a little bit tired, man. Just learning this machine and finding my rhythm is really the toughest part of all this. That's where it's all hooked up. Pretty simple. We had a little hydraulic leak. It was spurting a little bit. We fixed that. These are the main hydraulic lines that supply this control panel. I'll show you all the handles and how all that stuff works really soon. This hydraulic cylinder tilts that way and that way. There's another hydraulic cylinder that tilts that way and that way. Pretty cool, pretty simple. And there are 3 feet. So there's 1 foot here. There's another one on the other side, and then there's a foot that you put down, the telescoping foot that's right there. And you'll see that in action, because when we back up to where we're going to put our post, we'll take that telescoping foot right there and we'll plant it on the ground. So this thing will be firmly planted on the ground from the tractor and from 3 points all the way around the driver. It's a really cool driver. So price point of this machine is, and don't quote me on this because prices could change at any time, but the price point on this machine, and this is a borrowed machine from Farm Fence Solutions, the price point is around $10,500. It is a commercial unit for sure. It is, well, I say a commercial unit, it's a farmer unit. It's a unit that a man would buy to build his farm with, and you could buy this machine, use it, build all your fences, and then turn around if you didn't think you needed it anymore, and you could sell it and probably make 3/4 of your money back. It's a heck of a machine, and it just seems really, really durable. We're gonna fire the tractor up. I just have a lever right here, and I've got a little bungee strap, and I just hooked that bungee strap to that lever, okay? For now, we're gonna pull the machine forward and get set up for the next post. So from center of post to center of post, we're going 7 foot 11 inches. To me, it seems absolutely foolish to do all this fencing with a measuring tape and a can of spray. That's a lot of posts, and I don't want to mark every one of them like that. So what I'm going to do tonight when I get done with the tractor here for workflow purposes, I'm going to go get me a piece of PVC pipe, and I'm going to cut it to the exact length. I'm going to lay it down, and that's how I'm going to mark all these posts, all the rest of these posts. Odds are I'll get about half these done today, and I'll knock some more in tomorrow. And we've got the other side of the driveway over here to do also. So it's about, I'm gonna say about a 2.5 day job right here. Let's get the driver all set up and positioned to drive the next post. Wear hearing protection, guys. Don't drive posts without wearing hearing protection. It's just absolutely foolish. I'm gonna show you guys for demonstration purposes how to set this up with the loud tractor in the background. Then I'm putting earplugs in and I'll drive the post in. Here's the weight. There is a grabber basically that holds that in place. Let's get you up underneath here so you can see. So directly underneath here, there are 3 spikes. See those 3 spikes? Those will go into the very top of the post. And you can see by this post, here are the 3 spikes. You want to get those 3 spikes as centered as you possibly can before you start driving. All right, let's talk about tools. So simple tools. I got a 24-inch level, just an inexpensive level that we're gonna level the post with. And I've got a piece of PVC electrical conduit. I'm probably never gonna use it. It was laying in the shop. So I've got a mark on here with the Sharpie at 56 inches for board fence, okay? This will also have marks on it for pipe fence when we start building pipe fence again. The board fence is only gonna go across the front. The pipe fence is gonna be the rest of the farm. So we'll drive down to this line. That's the goal. Now, up here, I made myself a little tool. This is basically just a wood screw, and that wood screw, you'll see why it's important here in just a second. I've got to loosen the chain up with it. This is our control panel. Slew arm, telly arm, rear leg, mass tilt forward, mass tilt to the side, up and down with the weight, and this is our rock spike right here. These handles move up and down, and they move the machine. Very simple, okay? Couldn't be any simpler. We don't use the rock spike very often, but that's the rock spike, and that's why it's out here out of the way, so you don't accidentally hit it, okay? Now, here's where this little hook comes into play. You'll see that in just a second. I leave everything right here, easily accessible, and we'll line it up from the post. Let's give you a little demonstration of how everything works. So here is our weight, and you're gonna see it go up. Okay? It's weight up. That's weight down. The weight will go all the way down, okay? That's your weight, okay? Now, the slew arm. See how that rotates? Rotates in and out. And that's gonna put us right on our mark where we need to be, okay? That's your slew arm. This is your telly arm. Watch this thing, it's gonna get wider. See that? It telescopes. It's a telescoping arm. Pretty self-explanatory. Rear leg. Now, there's a foot down here, and you'll see the whole tractor and everything raise up. See how that raises up? You want to raise that up to where you have 3 points of contact. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Mass tilt. I can tilt this mass. Let's bring that leg back up. Okay? I can tilt this mass forward and backwards. So if you got to drive a post at an angle or on a hillside, you can tilt that thing. Okay? Now this tilts the mast side to side. Let's get you a better shot of that. You can see, boy, that thing will really tip. Okay, so if you're driving post on a hillside, it's very, very handy. What my goal is to level this up as best I possibly can, and then get it over the site where I'm going to set my post. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to slew over, and then I'm going to extend my telly arm. I'm going to slew over a little more. And we got to avoid our string as we do this. Now, I'm going to look at just eyeball this and look at my mast and see how level it is. Then I'm going to drop my rear leg right there. So I have 3 points of contact. Now, I'm going to raise my mast all the way up, my driver all the way up. And when I raise that all the way up, I'm going to take my post and set it in there and drop those 3 little spikes into that post, and that's going to hold it in position up against the string. Then I'll level it, then I'll whack it one good time. That's what you're gonna see here in a second. I'm gonna give it a good smack. It's gonna knock it in the ground about that far, and then I'm gonna recheck level. This should be a 2 or 3 man job. You should have one guy on the tractor, one guy leveling the post, and the other guy driving the post, and you could just roll with it. But I'm not rolling with it today. I'm learning, and that's good. I think it's awesome that I'm learning this, and hopefully I'll get my flow down, and we'll just start knocking them in. We'll build this whole fence on this whole farm. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.5 more miles of fencing to build here on the farm. You can imagine what a time-consuming process this is going to be for us. But it's fun. I enjoy it. Let's get busy. You'll see me lining everything up. Before we do that, let's talk about posts. So if you've got a post, and all these posts are almost perfect, but if you've got a post that's got a nasty spot in it or a rotten spot, or it's uneven, you want to drive that mess into the ground and leave the pretty part of the post out of the ground. These posts are uniform size, okay? So they're around 5.5 inches uniform, okay? If they had a bigger end and a smaller end, I'm told, now correct me if I'm wrong, that you're supposed to leave the big end up and drive the small end into the ground. And that way the ground tightens up around the post. If you drove the big end into the ground first, it'd be like driving your fist into the ground. It would be loose right here. So in other words, you want it to tighten up, just kind of like your arm size. You want it to tighten up as it goes into the ground. Let's drive one. Okay. Here's what I'm doing. I'm taking my level, and I'm gonna get right on that line, and I'm gonna level my post up before I even get the driver on it. And I'm gonna kick it over until it's barely touching that string. I'm gonna level her up. Right there. You can get it as exact as you want to with this. I gotta look at this for the rest of my life, man, so I want it to be right. I want it to be beautiful, okay? So I can look at this post where it's at and tell my mast is not in the correct position. I'm gonna bring my telly arm in, slewing out just a little bit. Now I'm gonna bring my telly arm out, okay? And I'm gonna slew in. Okay. Weight all the way up. Drop my rear leg again. It's a process, man. There's no doubt about it. There we go. That's the one. That's the one Daddy likes. We're setting our 3 spikes in there. Actually want to be just a little bit more straight on here. Okay. Now, my post is level. My spikes are right, it's right on the string, and we're ready to drive. First whack, very easy. Just tapping it down. Here's where my tool comes into play. That little screw on the end of that takes this chain off. That's a homemade tool, okay? And now, this portion will stay with the post. The spikes will stay in it. So we're gonna knock it in. Okay, that was about 4 or 5 whacks. We're about that deep right now. Now I'm gonna re-level and check it again. So I'm gonna drive it about this far after I level, and then I'm gonna level again, I'm gonna level again. Okay, so the last thing I'm doing right here is I'm getting to my mark right here, okay? My 56-inch mark. So I've met my mark, and the next thing I'm gonna do is disengage those little spikes that are stuck in the top of the post. I'll show you how I do it. Just take this chain, throw it over that loop, and that'll pull this whole apparatus up, okay? Just like so. That's it. Now I'll take my tool, and I'll hang it up here, and now I'm ready to move on to my next post. So in review today, we've set up our string For our post, for our fence, we've laid out all of our posts to be driven, and we've got quite a bit more work to do with the tractor. It probably takes on average about 8 minutes a post, and I have somewhere in the neighborhood of I don't know, man, 1,000 posts to drive by the end of all this, maybe more than 1,000 posts. So I've got some work cut out for me. There's a lot of education to be had here if you're considering building your own fence like this. Guys, be sure you jump in, pound the like button, and follow us here on the channel. I'll tell you when we mess up, and I'll tell you when we do right. Those posts are looking good. Everything's looking awesome. We do have one post that's a little bit high, and it's not recommended to cut the tops off of these posts because what you're doing is exposing the core of the post to the elements. Now, have you ever heard of a post rotting from the top? No. Most of the time your post is going to rot. It's going to rot right off at the ground. I anticipate hitting some big rocks as I go out through here. I've got a lot of work to get done. We'll throw a time lapse up here for you guys, and be sure you follow the channel. There's a whole lot more fun stuff. There'll be a bunch of links at the end of this video, and there'll be links to the series here as we build this wood fence, and we're going to start building pipe fence just like we have our cows in. Those are our cows over on the, there they are, over on the hillside. We'll start building pipe fence here pretty soon too. Gonna have a whole bunch of fencing contractors here teaching us the right way to build fence. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next time on the Stoney Ridge Farm. Pound that like button. I hope to see you again. All right? Woo!
Well, come on down to the Stoney Ridge. Bring your wife and bring your kids. We're living life pure and sweet. That's the way it's supposed to be, Stoney Ridge.